You know that person everyone absolutely depends on, the calm one, the reliable one, the quote-unquote good person who never causes problems, never asks for too much, and honestly never makes anyone uncomfortable? Well, maybe that person is you. In this explainer, we're going to look at a deeply misunderstood reality. What if I told you that for millions of people out there, being nice isn't actually kindness at all? What if what you consider your absolute best moral virtue is in fact a hidden nervous system survival strategy? Welcome to a journey into the clinical reality of chronic niceness. We're going to unmask a phenomenon that quietly shapes entire identities, and we'll do it by looking really closely at the neurological and psychological truths right beneath the surface. So, do you say yes when your body is literally screaming no? I really want you to reflect on the last time someone asked you for a favor or your time or your emotional energy, and you said yes. But somewhere deep down inside, right behind your smile, you felt a micro flinch. You know that split second where your body screamed, I really do not want to do this? And then you overrode it so fast you almost didn't even notice? Well, that override, that isn't kindness. It's a biological calculation. And if you spend your entire life bending so naturally that nobody even notices you're bending, you are likely carrying a very, very specific burden. We actually call this the invisible exhaustion. And it's not just physical tiredness, right? It is a profound identity exhaustion. I mean, you might find yourself apologizing to inanimate objects, like literally saying sorry to a table you just bumped into. You over-explain tiny missteps. You completely soften your opinions just to avoid even a hint of conflict. You rehearse simple conversations for hours in your head, and you probably feel a massive wave of panic when someone seems even a little bit disappointed. This is happening because your entire nervous system has become organized around keeping other people comfortable. You're constantly shape-shifting just to manage the emotional temperature of the room. Which brings us to our first section, the fawn survival strategy. This is what happens when safety depends completely on emotional management. Now, most people know about the classic threat responses, fight, flight, and freeze. But there's actually a fourth trauma response. It's called the fawn response. Fawning is a neurological adaptation. It happens when an individual responds to a perceived threat by completely abandoning their own needs so they can merge with the demands and moods of others. It is honestly a brilliant, desperate survival mechanism. It's usually born in childhood environments where conflict was unpredictable or genuinely dangerous. When you couldn't fight back and you couldn't run away, your brain learned that the absolute safest way to survive was simply to become emotionally useful. Trauma expert Pete Walker frames this brilliantly. He notes that this incipient, codependent toddler largely bypasses fight, flight, and freeze, and instead learns to fawn her way into the relative safety of becoming helpful. Let that sink in for a second. It is a deliberate self-erasure. You delete the word no from your vocabulary because expressing a need felt like a burden, or maybe it even brought retaliation. Your nervous system basically learned that your survival depended on becoming invisible as a separate, distinct person. And the crucial point here is this massive paradox. Your niceness is actually a survival strategy. And honestly, the terrifying part is that society constantly rewards this self-erasure. Think about it. We call it being a good person, or a team player, or being low maintenance. The social reward system around us is actively reinforcing the exact behaviors that are quietly destroying you from the inside out. Society is literally labeling your threat response as a highly admirable personality trait. Moving into Section 2, the biology of appeasement, we're going to look at the severe physical toll of this please and appease response. Let's clinically contrast these standard threat responses for a moment. Fight, flight, and freeze all resolve a threat through some form of separation. You escape, you fight back, or you hide to become invisible. But fawn? Fawn resolves the threat through appeasement. You literally merge with the source of the threat. And this forces your brain's social engagement system to operate under extreme duress. You're using the neural circuitry of connection, but your underlying threat detection system is fully activated. It's the physiological equivalent of driving your car with one foot slammed on the gas pedal and the other foot slammed on the brake at the exact same time. And here is the autonomic cost of that constant compliance. Your nervous system simply never rests. This state of chronic hypervigilance and constant amygdala activation leads to elevated cortisol. Your HPA axis, which is your body's main stress system, is just firing endlessly. And over time, this actually suppresses your immune system, it increases your risk of autoimmune diseases, and it creates severe allostatic load. That's the clinical term for cumulative wear and tear on your body. Emotional suppression is absolutely not just a metaphor. It is a real physiological event. Your body is quite literally paying a physical price for every single yes that really should have been a no. To put that toll into perspective, consider this number: 40 to 60%. That is the shocking percentage of clients entering addiction treatment who exhibit significant people-pleasing patterns. Why so high? Well, because fawning creates a dopamine loop of compliance. When you please someone and manage to avoid a conflict, you get a quick hit of relief. But just like any addiction, your tolerance builds. You start needing more approval from more people just to feel safe. And eventually, many people start self-medicating just to handle the sheer exhaustion of keeping up this constant emotional performance. That leads us directly into Section 3, the erosion of identity, and the silent accumulation of hidden anger. You see, fawning creates what psychologists call a covert contract. The contract basically goes like this: if I am perfectly accommodating and if I anticipate all your needs, you will never abandon me. Now, the major problem with this one-sided agreement is that you never actually communicated it to the other person. So when people inevitably start treating you like a doormat, because let's face it, you have literally laid yourself down as one, you start to feel this really deep, burning sense of injustice and exploitation. Invisible resentment is the ghost of your murdered boundaries. Relationships that are built on emotional suppression are fundamentally unstable. You're pouring all your energy into these connections, secretly hoping someone will finally notice your sacrifices, but nobody ever does. And this breeds an incredibly toxic, quiet resentment that just ferments in the dark. It turns the absolute nicest people into individuals carrying unbelievable amounts of hidden anger. So, I really have to ask you, what do you actually want? For a chronic fawner, that seemingly simple question can induce pure existential panic. If someone asks you what you want for dinner or what you want out of a relationship, your mind probably just goes blank. And that's because after years and years of redirecting your attention outward to constantly monitor everyone else, your own internal compass has completely atrophied. This state is known as identity diffusion. It's when the self basically becomes a mere mirror for others. You become a psychological hostage in your own relationships. Think about it. Nobody knows the real you. They only know the highly edited, safe, entirely non-threatening performance you put on just to maintain harmony. You haven't just lost your energy here. You have lost the felt sense that your own needs, desires, and preferences are even legitimate. Let's move to Section 4, kindness versus trauma compliance. It's time to disentangle genuine virtue from underlying fear. We really must separate these two concepts because they are completely different. Trauma compliance is driven by fear, by deficit, by defense, and by the sheer terror of rejection. It is entirely defensive, and every single act costs you a piece of your sense of self. Authentic kindness, on the other hand, is driven by choice, by abundance, fullness, and deep self-respect. Here's the key. A genuinely kind person can still say no. They can disagree safely. If you cannot safely choose disagreement, well, your kindness may not be fully voluntary. It's an adaptation. As therapist Anne Fraser so powerfully observes, people-pleasing is motivated by lack, where authentic generosity is motivated by abundance. A nervous system that is terrified of disappointing others is trapped in a state of lack, and that makes the individual incredibly easy to manipulate and control. True kindness, real kindness, flows from a place of genuine safety, the feeling of, I have enough, I am enough, so I can give freely. Finally, let's look at Section 5, the path forward, small acts of self-reclamation. So how do we actually fix this? Here is how you practically begin rewiring the nervous system. Step 1 is the pause. When someone asks for something, just buy some time. Say something like, let me check my calendar. This creates a crucial space between the trigger and your conditioned response. Step 2 is the small no. You actually must learn to tolerate the guilt of refusing minor requests. You have to let yourself feel the fear of disapproval without instantly complying. This teaches your brain that setting a boundary isn't going to kill you. And step 3, reconnect with your needs. Ask yourself tiny, simple questions every single day. What music do I actually want to hear right now? What do I really want for lunch? You are slowly but surely rebuilding the bridge back to your authentic self. Ultimately, the cost of being a good person should never be yourself. Healing from the fawn response isn't about becoming a harder, colder person. It's about learning that your worth is absolutely not defined by how useful you are to others. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to be inconvenient. What would your life look like if you just stopped performing and started allowing yourself to be truly, authentically seen? I'm going to leave you with that thought, and I truly hope this explainer has sparked a desire to reclaim your own compass.